everybody. I'm Madalyn Sklar, host of the Social ROI Chat. This is back-to-back 2 weeks of Pinterest marketing. I mean, we are learning so much about Pinterest, and we have an amazing guest with us this week. We've got Kathryn Moorhouse. Hi, Kathryn. How are you?
Hi, I'm very well. And yourself?
I am so great. What an awesome chat today, talking about Pinterest marketing. Our topic was Pinterest crafting effective pin designs and descriptions. It was so good. You are full of such insights. So before we really go dive in, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yes, of course. I really enjoyed the chat this evening. There were so many great questions that came from it. So thank you for having me on the chat. I'm Kathryn Moorhouse, as you just mentioned, and I'm a Pinterest strategist. So I teach entrepreneurs how to use Pinterest for their business. And I absolutely adore strategy, so marketing strategy, and figuring out how you can leverage a platform for your marketing, for your business to get those kind of leads and sales that you're looking for. I'm based in South Africa with my husband. We love traveling and I love donuts. I thought I should throw that in because I actually had a chat with someone the other day and they were like, oh, they love cheeseburgers. I was like, yeah, I'm donuts. I'm donuts through and through. So if you ever want to, get on my good side, then donuts are definitely the way to do that.
Good to know. Good to know. That is awesome. A big hello to Ai. Ai is here with us live on the chat. She is one of our lovely greeters. I have like a team that help greet people as they come into the chat, which is always fun. So what I want to do, Kathryn, is kind of go back through some of the questions we had on the chat today and have you give us the expanded version. Back when it was 140 characters on Twitter, I would say, we could go beyond the 140 characters. But now that we have 280, we actually can say more. But video really allows us to fully expand. And, you are typing really great, impactful answers. And I cannot wait to hear you talking about all this and sharing it in this video format. So we'll start with question number 1, which is, let's start with the basics. How does the Pinterest feed work?
Well, I loved answering these questions and I love expanding on it because I think there's so much more to just those couple of answers that I gave. But your Pinterest home feed really is a place where the people that you followed on Pinterest, so if you followed someone on Pinterest or you followed a topic, you followed a board, when you first created your Pinterest account, you had to select some boards to follow or ideas that you were interested in. All of that kind of content will show up in your home feed. But what Pinterest has really been focusing on for quite a while now, and if you go to their Pinterest developers blog, you can actually see all the amazing things that they're working on. They're really trying to create a place where the pinner, so the user who's actually experiencing Pinterest and searching for ideas and inspiration, when they come to their home feed, they see pins that are relevant to them. So relevancy is probably the biggest word that you can put there. Anything that is just relevant to their interests. If you had to think of it in one little sentence, your pins need to be relevant to them. And Pinterest has created this amazing smart feed algorithm where, we could go into major depth here, but it sometimes goes over my own head. But Tailwind has actually written a fantastic article that breaks it down. But what Pinterest has done is they've created these 3 basic funnels that your pin, when you add a pin to Pinterest, it'll get sent through into these 3 different funnels. It's like an interest pool, a follower pool, and a relevant pool. And the follower pool is anybody that you're following, for example. That's who's going to show up. Those pins are going to show up in your home feed. And then pins that are of interest to you. So based on what you've shown interest in on Pinterest, Pinterest will then show those kind of pins in your feed. And then again, the relevant pool, it's all the things that are relevant to searches you've previously done on Pinterest. So if you think of it this way, if you go onto Pinterest as a user and you type into the search bar wedding planning or wedding ideas, or, we're just going to go with wedding here, for example, and you want wedding dress ideas, and you type that into the search bar, you're going to get a number of results. And the more you type in these wedding related keywords, because it's the topic that you're interested in this week, the more Pinterest is going to adjust your home feed to showcase more wedding content. Now, you may not have followed any wedding planners or wedding profiles, and you may not have followed any wedding boards, but because you've been searching on Pinterest for this, the smart feed is now going to place some of these types of pins in your home feed. And that's basically the relevant pool and the interest pool, so things you're interested in. So as a business, we want to obviously show up in the home feed. So we want to make sure that our pins, once they move through the smart feed algorithm and everything, show up in front of our ideal clients. And a lot of that has to do with your actual pin and whether or not it's relevant to your ideal clients. So the best way to do that is to make sure that you're working on creating a quality domain, is what they say you have to focus on. And how you generate a quality domain as such is, if you start to add pins to Pinterest and you're pinning consistently, Pinterest will start to see that all those pins leading to the same URL, to the same type of website, are great quality pins. They share great quality content. So your domain is leveraged, and it says, okay, you've got a great domain, so we're going to share more of your pins now. That's the domain quality. And then you've got your pin quality, and that's got to do with the quality of your graphics, the quality of your description, and also the metadata attached to the pin. And you can enable this as a marketer by enabling rich pins and utilizing those marketing tools to make your pin even better. And again, it comes down to the kind of content you share and how you use keywords to make that content show up in the home feed. Because if Pinterest is seeing you jam-pack your pin descriptions with keywords that have nothing to do with the pin or the content that it leads to, it's not going to be relevant for your ideal clients. It's not going to show up in the right place, and they're not going to place you in the home feed. So really what you're trying to do is you're trying to look at it from a holistic sense. You're trying to look at how can you show up in the search results? How can you show up in their home feed? And there's a variety of ways. So if I just mention a few, the first is showing up in the search results, which would be ensuring that your pin description has keywords in it. The other way is making sure that you're gaining followers. Now, again, followers is not the most important thing to focus on. It's not your most important metric, but when people follow you, you will show up in their search results, using this algorithm and everything. But another way is joining group boards and sharing your content on group boards, because that's going to open up an entirely new audience for you. And then again, it comes down to the quality of the content you're sharing and that it's relevant to your target audience. And that is really how this whole home feed is made up. And there's so much more to it. So I do encourage you, I'll put the link in the comments later for you to read a bit more about it. But they're really just trying to focus in on providing the pinner with pins that relate to their personal interests. So think of that as a business owner and how you can make sure that you are answering those personal interests of your ideal clients so that your pins will show up in their home feed.
This is like great information. I mean, this is incredible. You really know Pinterest. Like, this is definitely your thing. I mean, is this like your number one platform that you use? Like, is this like your top, like when somebody says, what is your favorite? Is that it?
It is. It's my absolute favorite. One of the main reasons I love it the most is because if you write a blog post and you put that pin on Pinterest, it'll be generating traffic for years to come. And I love that because I struggle to write blog posts. So I know how hard it is sometimes to create content or whatever. So a platform that lets me generate traffic for years to come, I love it already.
That is great. I said you are a Pinterest power lady. I love that. That is so great. Yeah, I mean, you definitely know your stuff. I mean, this is going to be a great conversation for sure. And I want to let those that are here live with us know that if you want to come on video and chat with us live and ask Kathryn a question, I posted the link. It is pinned to the top of the comments here in Facebook. If you click on that link, you could actually come on video with us. You need to be on a Chrome, like be on a Chrome browser on the desktop or laptop, and come join the conversation and chat with us. It'll be fun. So I want to jump into question number 2, because this was an interesting conversation we were having, where what is there an optimal length for pen descriptions? And you shared you shed some light on this, because I think a lot of us were not really aware of what's the maximum length of a pen description and what is the optimal length. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Definitely. So your maximum length of a pin description is 500 characters. And that includes your hashtags as well. And hashtags have become searchable on Pinterest now, so you can include them in your pin descriptions. But I always suggest going between 250 to 500, and that really just depends on your pin and the kind of description you've created. And my goal is always to include 2 to 4 keywords in the pin description, and then 2 to 4 hashtags in the pin description. Now, sometimes those keywords are pretty long. It's like a key phrase, and that will fill up the 500 characters. But if my keywords are pretty short and it gets to the point, it can be 250 characters. So I don't always say jam-pack full to 500. It's really about the quality of your description. But know that you can only go up to the 500. So it does give you a really good space to write a really great description that causes your audience to want to click through on your pin. So you always got to think about that as well. When they're reading it, you're trying to get them to click through. You're trying to answer a question. You're trying to inspire them. And you're also trying to obviously utilize that space to generate the search engine optimization. So basically, you want to make sure that you're putting your keywords and then you're putting your hashtags in there so that this pin shows up in the search result. So yeah, one of my favorite things is really just to think of it that way. I always, every time I create a pin description, because sometimes you can just sit there and it's like a blank page and you don't really know what to say, and you just take the title and you put it in there. But the problem is you want to make sure that you aren't just putting the title in there, you're actually putting in keywords so that this pin will show up under those keywords. And you want to choose very specific keywords for your business and that are specific to the pin. And so I always just go with 2 to 4 keywords. I always think my pin description has to have my title, keywords, hashtags, and a call to action. And occasionally there isn't a call to action. It just depends on the pin itself and if the call to action suits the description. But it's definitely something you want to work on. You don't want to just put in one small quick sentence, because you're wasting your opportunity to show up in the search results. And it's one of the most important places to actually place your keywords. So don't waste those 500 characters by only putting in, a short one sentence. But don't feel like if you don't reach the full 500 that you aren't getting the optimal return. Yeah,
that is great advice. I'm sure there are plenty of people that just do like a little one-liner and, just one sentence, which, how's that going to do you any good? You really need to think about having a good description. Pinterest is something, and you and I were talking about this before we started the live video, or that or at the beginning of this video, that Pinterest lives on. It has a long shelf life. When you think about the shelf life of different things we put out there on social media, I have a Pinterest that I was more active on years ago, but it is the kind of thing, just like a YouTube video, it keeps on giving, right?
It does. It really does. And it's years later, which is why I think when you select your keywords, you're not trying to just select trendy keywords. You're really trying to select keywords that are relevant and relate to the actual pin. Because like you say, it's on there forever. It's evergreen. And so you want to use that to the best of your ability.
Exactly. We have one of our chat participants. I is here with us, and she is jumping on live video. Hi, I. How are you?
Hey, Madalyn. Hey, Kathryn. Thank you so much for such an amazing chat. I learned so much. I was just like taking notes and bookmarking every single tweet that you tweeted out. So amazing. As Madalyn mentioned, I haven't touched my Pinterest for quite a few years. And definitely need to beef up my game and restart Pinterest again.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited to hear more about your Pinterest account as well. I love hearing about
I have a quick question because I am a blogger and I love how you mentioned using Pinterest can help you with like blogging. So can you elaborate more on that? And so this will make it easier for me to get restarted on my Pinterest instead of from like starting from scratch. Thank you.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. So Pinterest is fantastic for blog posts because most of the time you're going to leave your blog post on your website for a long time. And it's always generally going to be relevant content. You're going to want to update your blog posts occasionally and things like that. So my best tips for a blogger to market themselves on Pinterest is to start already by verifying your website on Pinterest, and you do that through the business account. And once you've done that, you're going to apply for rich pins, and that's going to give you an article rich pin. And that means your pin already is going to perform and outperform any blog post that doesn't have rich pins. Okay. So that's the kind of level that you're already, the stepping stone that you're jumping into when you enable rich pins as a blogger. So that's always the first thing that you want to make sure that you're doing. And then from there, you really want to look at the sales funnel that you have set up. What is your end goal with Pinterest? So if you're a blogger, do you want to get them onto your email list? Do you want to make a product sale? You know what I mean? So if you want to get them onto your email list, then you have to look at right from the pin all the way through to the point where they're going to sign up for the email. And a lot of that obviously has to do with your website. So how have you set up your blog post? Do you have content upgrades in your blog post that allow them to sign up for your email list? And then do you have really great pin images on that blog post that you can share to Pinterest? So you want to then add at least one image, for example, for this blog post to your home board. So your boards on Pinterest, on your profile. And I always suggest trying to add more than one image template for one blog post. So basically, if you look at it like this, you could have one blog post and you could have 2 or more pin images leading to that same blog post.
Yes.
The reason you want to do that is because you've got different ideal clients. You've got different readers. They're interested in different things. Sometimes they're attracted by different things. So sometimes, like I had mentioned earlier, you're going to get an emotional ideal client and you're going to get a rational ideal client. So one of them wants to know exactly what your blog post answers, the pain point. So you want that title to be bold in text right at the top of the image, answering their pain point immediately, letting them know that this blog post is exactly what they're looking for. They're looking straight for the answer. Then you've got the emotional blogger or emotional Pinterest user who's looking for inspiration, ideas, and knowledge, but they are motivated by the look and feel. And so you want to make sure that your pin image is portraying the look and feel first, and then it moves down to the text that then gives context around this image. And so when you create multiple images for one blog post, you are attracting your different ideal clients because they have those different kind of interests. So sometimes it can be as simple as a different color palette. So if you've got your brand palette and you've got, say, like 3 brand colors, creating one pin image for each of those brand colors, because maybe some people are attracted more to the bright red, or they're attracted to the navy, or they're attracted to the white. So you're wanting to test out these different kind of templates because you don't know what your ideal client is going to react to. So you're trying to capture all of them on Pinterest and lead them to this blog post. Okay, so that's why I always suggest multiple pin images. So you want to add those to Pinterest, and then you want to take advantage of a pinning strategy. So you're going to try and look at how you can get your pin in the search results, and there are different places that your pin could appear. It's going to be in the search results. So if someone types in keywords, which is why you want to make sure that your pin description is chock-a-block full with relevant keywords. So like I said, those 2 to 4 keywords that are so on point. But then you can also show up in an interest feed, which is an interesting one, because if your ideal client has shown interest in what you blog about, and you make sure that your pin image and your pin design, your pin description, has the right keyword that relates to that interest, then it can show up in the interest feed. So if the interest is weddings, and you've made sure that you've used the keyword relating to weddings, you're going to show up in the interest feed. Then there's the category feed. So you want to make sure that your boards, sorry, I'm giving loads of information.
This is great.
It's awesome.
So your boards where the pin is housed, obviously you want to make sure that that board is categorized. So you can set the category of each board. So if it's a wedding related board, for example, again, set the category as weddings, because that's going to help it show up in the category search. Then there's a picked for you in someone's home feed. So a home feed, again, Pinterest is going to suggest pins from pinners across Pinterest that they think you'd be interested in. So they're going to show you pins, they're going to show you people, and they're going to show you boards in your home feed as well. And you want to make sure that your pins get picked as the picked for you pins. You want to make sure that your ideal client's home feed includes a couple of pins that Pinterest picked for them. And the way you do that, again, is using the search engine optimization tactics. So that's looking at your whole Pinterest profile and seeing how you've placed your keywords, or how you've selected your keywords and where you've placed them. So I'm going to quickly give you a short list here of some places you want to place your keywords. Okay.
You are amazing. Oh my God.
So your profile name, your profile description, your board names, your board descriptions, your pin title, that's your blog post title as well, and your pin description. Those are the places you want to place your keywords so that your whole profile, your boards and your pins show up in the search results and show up in interest feeds and category feeds in those different places. And then the final tip to make sure that your blogs are being seen is to share your blogs on group boards, your blog post pins on group boards, because there's a lot of group boards for bloggers to share their content with each other. So you're in a great industry because it doesn't matter whether you're wedding, whether you're this or that, bloggers have actually created group boards for other bloggers. So we all just share each other's pins on these group boards. And there's so many that you could potentially join. So that just widens your audience hugely.
Yeah. How long have you been on Pinterest?
For years.
I'm just amazed by your
for years.
Expertise. Yeah.
That's a great answer. I love that. For years.
I said to my husband way back when we were dating, if only I could get paid to Pinterest. And then I became a Pinterest manager.
I love that. That is so awesome. I mean, there's nothing better than like, this is something I love doing. I wish I could get paid for it. That's like me. I love Twitter. I've been on Twitter 10 years. I just got the little tweet from Twitter saying, hey, you've been on for 10 years. And it's like, who knew I could get paid to help people with Twitter? So I totally understand what you're saying. And we just added Katharina. Hi, Katharina.
Hello.
Good to see you on here. So I love that we have 4 of us. It's just like the old days with Blab where it was 4 on the screen. I love it. Katharina, did you have a question?
One day we'll be paid to do this type of live.
You can totally. It can happen.
Yep.
True. What did you say? Sorry.
Katharina, do you have a question for Kathryn?
Well, actually, it was the thing about blogging, because as I do wine blogging, so I was actually interested in it too. But another question I was having a bit like on Instagram. So how important is the image? Do you have to have this perfect image to be successful on Pinterest, or is it more the keywords and the things you explained?
I don't think you have to have the perfect image. One of the interesting things on Pinterest is that it isn't like Instagram where you're trying to create the Instagram lifestyle through your images. You know what I mean? It's not perfection. Because a lot of times they're either looking for inspiration that is realistic, and sometimes there's inspiration that is just, you know, the Instagram lifestyle kind of inspiration. But for a lot of us, and especially bloggers, when you're trying to give advice, you're trying to give knowledge, you're trying to share information, they're interested in the actual information. So your pin image is important, but what's more important is that it's clear what the blog post is about. So your text needs to be clear. You need to create a great branded image. So it's less about trying to place all the perfect products or have the perfect lounge and then take a picture of it. It's really just trying to create something that resonates with your brand. So one of the most important things you need to do as a blogger is figure out what your brand colors are, figure out what kind of images suit your brand personality, and then using those consistently. So it's
No, I mean,
I
asked just because, I mean, I write about wine, so of course I have a lot of images from wine tastings, but the photos are not always that great because if it's dark where you're tasting wine, you can't do that much about. I mean, if you're in the vineyard and stuff, it's great because then you get good photos.
Mm-hmm. But when you're in the cellar, then the lighting isn't always the best.
It's not.
Exactly. One of the great things that you could do is if you've got one of these dark images, for example, but it portrays a great emotion, you could actually overlay a square on top of that using Canva, for example, and create a transparency with a white background image. So a white square, and you create a transparency and you put text over that about the blog.
So it's cool.
So it's less about the actual image being the focal point, but it still gives the same emotional response. But you're trying to lighten up the image, use those contrasts for the text.
No, that's good advice. Thanks.
That's great. I have a quick question, Kathryn. And this was question number 3 on the chat. How do hashtags work with Pinterest? Because you had mentioned that hashtags, you can now use that in Pinterest. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Definitely. So it's really interesting. At the end of last year, Pinterest officially made hashtags searchable. So they tested it for a while. And before, it was a big no-no, and everybody was pinning from Instagram and using hashtags, but you couldn't click on them. So there was no use. And it wasn't helping you show up in the search results as keywords because no one was typing in hashtag followed by a specific keyword. But they obviously updated it now for you to use hashtags in your pin descriptions only. So at the moment, right now, it's only your pin descriptions where hashtags are clickable and searchable and things like that. And the different ways people can use this is they can click on the actual hashtag from the pin image. So when you pin an image, your top 4 hashtags that you put in there are going to show up in the feed as they scroll. So that's already going to show a little bit over there. If you put more than 4 hashtags, only the top 4 are going to show up as people scroll. So if they scroll past and they see a hashtag, they want to search more related to that hashtag, they'll click on it, and Pinterest will then show them a hashtag feed. So that's going to be like the search results, except it's the hashtag search results. And it's put together slightly differently to your home feed, which is organized by the smart feed at the moment. So there are 2 ways, obviously, that they can find these hashtags or search these hashtags. And the one is in the actual pin description, they can click on it. The second one is they can type it into the search bar and click enter. So those are the different ways that you'd be able to actually get to that hashtag feed. But when someone clicks on it, for example, or searches it in the search bar, this hashtag feed will show up. And the feed is compiled with the freshest pins that have been added to Pinterest using that hashtag. So it's the newest pins that have been added. So before, when you're trying to appear in the home feed, you're going to be competing on different levels and you've got to work through the smart feed and all of that. Whereas with the hashtag feed, your pin will show up in that search result no matter what, right at the top there, if it's the newest pin at the moment, using that hashtag. So it's a great way to get exposure in that sense because it's not being organized by an algorithm yet. It's literally just being placed in a feed at the moment. So that's kind of where hashtags are at the moment. I think it's going to develop into a really great feature. At the moment, if you're looking for suggested hashtags, you can, when you add a pin to Pinterest and you start typing in your description and you type in the hashtag symbol and you start typing in text, a drop down will appear with some suggested hashtags. And next to it, it's going to show you how many pins have been using that hashtag. So you can see which are popular hashtags, which are less popular. That's kind of where the hashtags are at the moment.
That's cool. Thanks for sharing that. Why don't we just start winding down because we've taken a lot of your time and I know it's very late there. We have a very global audience, I want to say, because Katarina, you're in Europe. I'm sure it's late there, right?
Yeah, it's almost midnight, but okay. I'm a late owl. So.
And Kathryn is after midnight because she's in South Africa. I is in South Korea, so it's tomorrow, right?
Yes, Wednesday.
You're already living in Wednesday. Yes. You're in the future.
I'm from the future.
You are. So one final question? Does either one of you have one final question for Kathryn?
I don't. I just need to reactivate my Pinterest, and that's it. Yeah.
It's just sitting there. I don't even think you have to reactivate it. I think it's just sitting, collecting internet dust.
Exactly.
You gotta,
I actually only pin when I post a blog. I do a pin, but I don't use Pinterest that much. So it was great information. Actually, I didn't know.
Yeah, it's amazing chat. You are really amazing, Kathryn. I learned so much. As I mentioned earlier, I was just bookmarking and saving all of your tweets, and I'm definitely need to revisit the tweets and to improve my own Pinterest usage.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's so nice to hear. I'm really glad it's helping, and I do encourage you to take a look at Pinterest.
2 thumbs up.
Oh, thank you.
I am definitely inspired now to go spend a little bit more time on Pinterest. So thank you, Kathryn, so much. This has just been a great chat today. And then last week with Alyssa talking about Pinterest, this back-to-back Pinterest. I think you both have given us so much information to really take in. And I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you, Katerina and I, for jumping in. That's going to be our new thing each week. Yeah, and I encourage others to come on in our upcoming chats to come on live with us, because this makes for a fun, conversation for sure.
Definitely.
All right. Well, thank you all. I appreciate all of you.
Bye-bye.
We'll be back next week for another chat. Y'all take care. And Kathryn, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.